This is Counterpoint, and I'm your host, Tanya Granick-Allen. The election is over, and it looks like the ballots in every close race have been counted and recounted and certified. The Liberals stand at 169 seats, claiming a very strong minority government, with Prime Minister Mark Carney securing an upset victory against the Conservatives, who form official opposition with 144 seats. The Bloc Québécois with 22 seats, and the NDP falling to just 7 seats, and the Greens a mere 1 seat. So how will a Liberal minority government function? Will any NDP MPs cross the floor to grant that coveted majority? What does the future hold for Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre, who failed to hold on to his own seat? What does this election result mean for Alberta? And what should the new government's top priorities be? Lots of questions here. And joining me now for Counterpoint's federal election panel is Andrew Perez, principal at Perez Strategies and a Liberal Party strategist, and Mike Donison, political consultant and analyst and former executive director of the Conservative Party of Canada and a sessional lecturer in the Department of Economics, Philosophy and Political Science at the University of British Columbia, Okanagan in Kelowna. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me to unpack the election results. I know it's been a few weeks, but clearly this is a timely show because the Speaker of the House was just elected. King Charles is just about to speak, and still there were recounts happening. So why don't we start with you, Andrew? Why don't you break down the results for us of this election?
Yeah, it was an unprecedented election, an election result. The Conservatives, to see the Conservatives, who had a consistent 20 to 25 point lead for months on end, and for that to evaporate, and for the Liberals to, in fact, win the popular vote and do so about 2.5 points, was absolutely remarkable. I don't think it's spin to say that Mark Carney won this election for the Liberal Party. The stars aligned for him and what he represents: the trade war, the threats to our sovereignty and our economic prosperity, really laddered up nicely with his CV and his experience. The Liberals ran a decent campaign. I wouldn't say it was an outstanding campaign. And I do think that many Canadians were willing to give Carney and the Liberals a bit of wiggle room. There were mistakes that were made, but in spite of that, they won this very strong minority, almost a majority government. The Conservatives, of course, about 25 seats behind, and the leader losing his own seat. While they did add to their coalition and they did increase their popular vote, I think it was a bitter, bitter defeat, only exacerbated by the leader losing his seat.
Mike, do you share the same sentiments? Were you surprised with the results on election night?
I was surprised that the Liberals didn't get a majority. I would basically agree with Andrew. If I could summarize the election very simply, Donald J. Trump. If Kamala Harris had won the presidency, I would predict that Pierre Poilievre would be prime minister today. And Andrew's absolutely right. If I had to go into the basement of the Parliament buildings, Tanya, and with artificial intelligence build the perfect Liberal candidate and leader to deal with Trump, I would have come up with Mark Carney. And the Liberal Party sold him very well, and he was key. But I think a key to this election, and we'll see the numbers, is that my demographic switched. The seniors voted Liberal. The hysteria over Trump was really harsh. And the key thing is that my demographic votes high turnout. So we had the first election where younger people were voting Conservative on the numbers by plurality, but younger people don't vote. And so you had a steamroller effect through my generation, massive movement, and a high turnout. And I think that explains a lot of these election results. For instance, I know there's about 24 seats where the Conservative came within 5% of the Liberal, the New Democrat. I think that could have made all the difference.
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, in some ways, one could say that the country is fairly split on the new government. Now, we should mention that obviously the NDP were reduced to 7 seats. I'll ask Mike this. You're from British Columbia, the NDP government and whatnot. What does that mean? Or do they have official party status now?
No, they do not. Under the Parliament Canada Act, or I believe under the standing orders, it requires 12 MPs. Now, that doesn't stop, I think, the other parties. I think there's a way they could give them recognition by either suspending provision of the standing orders. But I'm not so sure Mr. Carney, the Liberals, want to be seen as particularly accommodating the NDP because they're in a weak position anyway. But they are officially not. That means they have no research budget, And as far as Mr. Speaker is concerned, they are independents and they have no right to sit on any committees. So they are really disadvantaged as a party group in the House.
Okay, we'll be right back.